What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Santa. Today, we are bringing you guys some more Browns news. Going to talk in a little bit more of a general format today than the recap, because your Browns do sit at 6-9 after losing to the New Orleans Saints this past Saturday, 17-10, moving the Browns to 6-9 and making that a final. I say final, but obviously there's two more games to be played. But the Browns will have a losing season at 6-9 right now. The best they can do is 8-9. Jeff, their last two games come against the Commanders, who are playing for a playoff spot, and the Steelers, who are not playing for a divisional spot, but played to not be the worst division or team in the division. What are your thoughts on just everything in general?
Oh man, I feel like this has just happened. I don't know. When you look at the box score, I just feel like this Saints game, I feel like we've watched this Saints game at least once a season the last 3 years. I just don't know how we end up losing this game. We have more total yards. We have more first downs. We run more total plays. They have one more punt than us. We threw the same amount of interceptions, and we win time of possession, and we lose.
Yep.
So
it feels familiar to like the Raiders game of
Yes.
last year, or that
Yes.
Philadelphia game from, I forget if it was last year or 2 years ago, where it was kind of one of those crappier day games, but it was low scoring and everything as well.
Yes. Well, I don't know. And then I think that the disappointing part about this year is that you've just lost to so many teams that you should have the advantage on. You should beat. You had the lead. You could have won. All the typical Brown stuff. But it just seems like this year,
amplifying.
It just seems just pick 2 games out of our 9 losses, and you could pick more than that and flip them around, and it's like, okay, we're in the driver's seat to have a playoff game. So, and we should. With Brissett for playing a majority of the year, whatever. Now you're going to have people. Now it's that time of the year where who needs to go? Who's going to be on the roster next year? What's coaching staff going to look like? And, get that 3rd round mock draft going, baby. Let's take a look at it. Let's get it started.
Yeah, because that's where we're at now. And, the only thing I could ask you, Jeff, is just in the last 4 weeks with Deshaun Watson, you got 27-14 against the Texans in a game where I believe the offense didn't score a touchdown. Then you lose 10-23 to the Bengals. You win 13-3 against the Ravens, and then you lose 17-10 to the Saints. Mostly just focused here on the offense in terms of the scoring output from these last 4 weeks to the 11 with Jacoby. Is it a quarterback thing? Is that why the scoring is down? Is it because of Watson being gone for, not playing football for almost 2 years, not being with this team through 11 weeks, or being the number 1 guy through 11 weeks, not getting the reps? Or is it something that's going on with the play calling? Is the play calling trying to adjust to Deshaun Watson's strengths? Is it just adjusting in general? What are your thoughts for the last 4 weeks?
I mean, it's a lot of things. The first 2 weeks was just him trying to not be rusty, especially the first week. The last 2 weeks he's played good enough to win.
Yep.
I don't know if the play calling was good enough to win this week, but it was good enough to tie. Like, it should have easily been 17-17 if you have one person catch the ball when they should have caught the ball on 3 drop touchdown passes, it's easily 17-17. He definitely played. His best game was definitely the 3rd week, especially with the weather. Mm-hmm. I think that the weather and the wind, and it's not even the cold or if there's snow on the field, it's the wind. It's the stupid wind off of Lake Erie. You're literally right there. And I think that everybody has agreed pre-Deshaun Watson, and now the offense changes a little bit because of Deshaun Watson, but pre-Deshaun Watson, the formula for winning football for this team was run the ball well and stop the run. We officially have not been able to stop the run all year long.
Mhm.
Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara beat us this week, and Dalton. It felt like Mariota. It felt like in Atlanta, like they didn't even have to throw the ball. Just hand the ball off, hand the ball off. Move the line to the right, move the line to the left. Dalton comes in for a 3rd and 6. That's all you're asking him to complete is 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 8, and he did enough to beat us. So they didn't even I don't even think they wanted to throw the ball at all, but there were some obvious downs where they had to, and then their run game just eats us up for the remainder of their plays.
Yeah. Jeff, sticking with that point of, what this kind of the makeup of this team is, the identity of this team
Right.
is running the football and defending against the run. You know, we are very good at running the ball. I think we've always been very good at running the ball for the most part, except for when we're dealing with the injury, the unique injury that I feel like, we've mentioned, but we just really haven't gone too much into it about how much the center position has really kind of
Yes.
fluctuated this what we used to describe as a top 5 offensive line
It's
into
crazy.
what it is now, where it's playing below what it should be, and really it's causing a lot more problems for this offense than a lot of people would like to suggest and like to give credit to, because a lot of people just want to put it on skill positions like, hey, Nick Chubb's great. The thing about Nick Chubb is, like, Nick Chubb in almost everyday conversation is the one person you can say does no wrong, even if he has a bad game, people will still be like, hey, it was
Sure.
probably someone else's fault. But again, it's kind of like always been that one thing, like in the draft, if you have a top 10 pick, what's the one position you don't want to pick? And this is not coming from a football perspective. This is coming from like a fan perspective. Is you don't want to pick an offensive lineman. Why? Because it's not flashy. It's not fun. It's
Right.
not fun. It's not easy to be like,
They could be bad.
right. It's not easy to be like, okay, they're going off of this for why he's good and why he's bad. No. But when it comes to like actual game day, it's like, hey, the wide receivers didn't play
Right.
well,
Right.
or the running back didn't play well, or the quarterback didn't play well. It's not typically the offensive line that we are talking about, but just kind of where we're at. And now you got to be thinking with the flip side of that, trying to defend against it is like, hey, when the offseason comes, defensive line, linebackers, your front 7 should have like five new additions, whether they're all starters or not. It shouldn't matter. They should be in contention to start, but they should also be in contention to just make an impact in said areas like the run game.
And I think my biggest knock on my biggest negative from the Deshaun Watson move is that I think we literally engulfed all of our resources, Andrew Berry and our front office, into getting him this offseason. And we kind of didn't. And honestly, and I can't really believe I'm saying this because I think it's like half true. We honestly have like an okay draft. I think if we go back and grade this draft, it's maybe just a little bit better than what we thought it was going to be when it happened. If guys could stay on the field, if Winfrey could stay on the field and get better every game, that's going to be decent. And then I think your biggest question mark is going to be Cade York in this draft. But I think Emerson has been a
Good.
great 3rd round pick.
Yep.
And Alex Wright, he could be okay. Not anything special, not a Pro Bowler, not a Hall of Famer, but he could be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole offseason before that was Watson, Watson, Watson. You don't address any issues with defensive tackle at all. That's your biggest mistake. And it's kind of like that probably has killed your whole season, because if you have competent defensive tackles, you probably win a couple of these games. You probably win the Atlanta game. If Myles Garrett doesn't roll his Porsche, you probably win the Atlanta game. If our linebackers stay healthy, obviously a lot of factors, but is Barry, I think Barry's the first one to tell you at the end of the season that even though you get Watson, he's only going to play so many games anyway. So did you really do enough this offseason to be ready to compete for this season? I think the answer is like clearly no.
Yeah, I continue to look at teams that kind of like future proof a lot of their sustainability. Like they kind of look into the future of, all right, who's coming up, what contract extensions do we need, who needs to stay, who can go, the liability kind of thing of like, all right, we can assess this, we can do this, we can do that. The Ravens, I feel like, have been there for forever. The Steelers have been there forever, but they also have for sure fired, not for sure fired, but for sure guys in Mike Tomlin and in Harbaugh, and then the front office has been able to just continuously keep them in suspended success for a long tenure of time with the Browns. I look at this roster and I'm not looking at contracts as of right now, but we really shouldn't address any position on offense or in the secondary of the defense. But everything else needs to be added to in a severe way in terms of your second defensive end, your 2 starting defensive tackles, and your entire starting lineup of linebackers. Jeff.
Well, I think you're the only decision that should be being made on offense is adding a wide receiver who is clearly better than what we have. And that's like close to 0% chance. Like I said,
right.
my 2 offseason moves on offense are going to be sell out for DeAndre Hopkins if it's a thing, if it's viable. That's a pipe dream. And 2, what are you going to pay Posich, or are you going to just roll with Nick Harris? Those are your only. That's it. You're done. And it's really just the center position, Nick Harris or Posich. That's it. Hopkins, that's a nice little fantasy dream. But correct. Starting linebackers, is Walker going to be back? Is Phillips going to be on the roster? Is Taki going to be on the roster?
That's an extension guy right there.
Your D tackles you need a whole new D tackle room. I don't know how it's going to be possible. And you're going to need a new edge, because if I had to make a bet right now, I think Walker is a goner, and I think Clowney is a goner, and I think Jacob Phillips is not going to be on the roster. You might need another safety if you don't care for Ronnie Harrison, and if you want John Johnson, if you don't want to pay him. Delpit's going to be on the roster. All your secondary is going to be on the roster next year who played this year. So, yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, the only thing I want to bring up is just if I had known how this, and this is, of course, hindsight 2020, blah,
Always.
blah, blah, whatever. This just, it makes me, and I will even admit that Emerson has been far better than what I expected him to be.
Correct.
But, even you just saying hey, we're going to need to address the DN position because Clowney's probably not going to be back, or, Clowney's been on and off the field. You're just sick of the inconsistency or whatever it might be with anyone in general. I just wish I could go back and draft and I can't remember his name for the life of me now, but the kid from Michigan, and just have him sit the year, since we've already wasted a year of talent in general. But I just think that now you'll never get a top tier guy in terms of the draft unless you trade up past the 3rd round, or someone falls what was that kid's name? I can't remember, but if they get injured and you can steal them and you're willing to take the year of whatever waiting, or the chance of him coming back from an injury. But 2020, I was trying to go to see NFL free agents and see what the D tackle position was looking like in general for next year. But Jeff, did you have any ideas on free agent names?
I don't know, really. I mean, I don't think you see it. Barry just doesn't like doing, for the most part, splash moves on the defensive side. Whatever. You could kind of call the first time we got Clowney a little bit of a splash move, but I just don't know if the strategy that he's working with defensively is something that works. Just give up the middle of the field. I don't like that in the AFC North. I've never liked that. Have these no-name D tackles. I think your 3rd round pick this year is kind of primed and ready for a D tackle or a linebacker, because that's kind of where you draft those guys, and that's the earliest we get, unless he really, really likes somebody and wants to move up. But I don't really see that being the case. So I think you get a lot of defense drafted this year, and I don't know. You just try to figure out some of these loose ends on offense. What if Hunt's a goner, Jerome Ford's the backup, or what do you do with Felton, or is Harrison Bryant? You have a couple of question marks offensively, but it's is that the main concern of the offseason? Absolutely.
Luckily,
not.
there are a lot of them are backhand issues and not front hand issues.
Correct.
But yeah, a lot of issues to be taken with this team going into the offseason, but honestly, not as many holes as a team with a losing record would seemingly have. I think a lot of it comes down to
You just have the cornerstone pieces hopefully locked in. You got quarterback, running back, edge, DBs. Like, we could go on with our lives from there, but
you do need to improve on the other things. You can't,
yes.
We talk a lot about complimentary basketball and our Cavs stuff, but there's also complimentary football.
Yes.
So, Jeff, with that being said, let's move into our predictions for this second to last game. We did get a little bump of information. Also, I'll just mention 3 Pro Bowlers selected for the Browns. Most obvious guys: Joel Bitonio, Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett. No questions there, but obviously a lot less from last year. But moving on, like I said again, we're going to go into this next game, which is against the Washington Commanders. Jeff, Carson Wentz getting the start here. How are you feeling about that?
I think I'd rather have him start than Heineke, but because I think we've kind of had his number as far as
since we passed on him in the draft,
startling him in the pocket. But this is at Washington, and it's another like stupid game that doesn't mean anything for this franchise. But of course, it's like, who's gonna come out and try is my biggest question, regardless of the score. Because I am nervous about this game. I think there's a chance we lose this game, but
I think that the Commanders are going to come out and try as much as
they have to.
They're still in playoff contention, so
they have to. I mean, there's a chance that it's like, regardless of the predictions, because are you going to just mail it in for the rest of the year, or are you going to come out and try to have a little pride? That's my whole question.
That's basically how we can assess this after the game is told. It's like,
right.
Was there effort played? Was there effort, given? Was there enough looked into from one side of the Browns where it's like, hey, not playing for anything. What do we play for? Do we play for ourselves, play for our pride, whatnot? Guys like John Johnson, it's like a question of like, all right, he's a guy who's already gotten his payday. He doesn't need to really be playing or be doing anything too extra. That'll be an easy assessment for us after the game. But Washington, you got to believe that they're going to come out. They're going to want this more than anything. I've got Washington winning this 21-17.
I don't know. I don't even know what to predict. Because I think if you're Stefanski and you just don't want Haslam to get nervous, I think you have to win these last 2 games. So,
yeah.
Well, we see Stefanski's best these last 2 games.
You don't want Haslam doing the one thing that he does best, which is being a social media owner, and he just buys into all the stuff that's being said on Twitter. It's one of those things where it's like, the man, like,
I think we'll probably win this week, and we'll probably lose to Pittsburgh next week. So I'll say 20. I don't even know what's the weather supposed to be like. Who knows? I'll say
Washington, so probably
24-20 Browns.
24-20. Can't win with a field goal. Makes sense. All right. You're going with 24-20, and I'm going with what did I say? 14-21 or 17-21? 17-21.
Yeah.
Washington winning. So, all right, Jeff. Anything else to say before we wrap this one up?
Well, I mean, for all formalities, another season in the books, basically. Not what we wanted.
There's always next year.
There it is. Next year with these stupid idiots. So, yeah, let's just try not to think about it too much. Just watch the game, turn the brain off. That's my advice.
Exactly. But something that you don't turn your brain off for, making sure that you hit that subscription button, making sure you hit the like button, making sure that you comment and need a little bit of thought in there in order to, conversate a little bit. But we do appreciate you all hanging around. And with that all being said, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.